Okay, hope everyone can see the screen. So in the last session already we just done up to journal creation. I mean, we created primary ledger, legal entity we created. Legal entity we assigned to primary ledger. Within the primary ledger, what are the balance and segment values we have, those we assigned to legal entity. And we created responsibility. We assigned primary ledger to responsibility by using GL ledger name profile option, and we created user responsibility we assigned to user, and with the same user we just access the system, and we open the GL periods and we created journal. This is what we discussed in the last session. We discussed and we just completed in the system also. Today, okay, just I'll take you through the process. When you are going to do the implementation for any client, okay, any client, how we have to create the system environment. We'll have a just fresh environment. We can say simply fresh instance. The currently whatever the instance we are using, that is visual instance, or you can call as demo instance. Within this instance, you'll have a fresh sample data. But tomorrow when you are working in the company, okay, there could be some vision or demo instance, but that is just for your practice purpose or training purpose. But when you are going to work for your client, you'll have a fresh instance. Okay, you'll have a fresh instance. In the fresh instance, you don't find any sample data. In the fresh instance you can call, in other words, environment also. You can call as fresh environment. When you are working for any client, when you are going to start with the implementation, you'll have a fresh environment. Within that environment, you have to create the, within that instance, you have to create the environment which will meet the client business requirement. How they are doing the business, accordingly you have to bring all the data into the system. The client business information you have to bring into the system. When you are going to get all the client information into the system, you have to maintain, you have to create such environments in the system also. So you are going to get a lot of information in the fresh environment. Say primarily, like there will be a lot of information, but here to understand this concept, which it, I mean the primary classifications I'll talk about. Primarily you have to get the employee information. So employee information you have to bring into the Oracle application from the client, whatever the system they are using, or from their business, and their legal information and their day-to-day business transactions information and stock information. Let's say items or goods, whatever. So primarily, so employee information we have to maintain for each company, and their company registration information we have to maintain. Along with that, and very important information is day-to-day business transactions and their stock within their warehouse. Okay, what are the stock they have, that information also we have to maintain in the system. So if you take simple example, if you are constructing home, you'll have a classification. You'll have a separate rooms. The room will, each room will have a separate purpose. The same way, however, you are going to have a rooms like hall, kitchen, bedroom. Every room got different purpose. Similar to that, in the system environment also, you have to create some room space. In each room space, you can maintain the separate data. To maintain the employees information in the system, in our instance, system means here always refer instance. In the fresh instance, you have to create the separate room space for to maintain the employee information, the separate room space for legal information, and for day-to-day business transactions to record it, we have to create the separate space for, okay, separate space for business transactions. And to maintain your stock related information, you should have a separate space within the instance environment. To maintain this different set of data, what we have to create in the instance, we'll see that. To maintain employee information, not only employee information, employee related information, that we'll see detail level, but just to understand this point, Okay, we'll take as a just employee information. To maintain the or else see, if you are not going to create separate room spaces, if you are going to put all the data in one place, it's not easy. Okay, it will become just in one place, all data in one place. If you want to segregate, if you want to just get only employee information, it will be great challenge. Okay, so that is the reason we have to maintain these different data with the different partitions within the system. So to maintain the employee information separately in the system, we have to create the concept called as business group. We'll create the concept called as business group. Short you can call as BZ. Okay, in the system environment, what we do? So for any company, if you are going to do Oracle Apps implementation, we have to create in the system the concept called as business group, so that the client employee information can be managed within the business group environment. The same way, so legal information, so already we discussed in the previous session. So the company registration information, or say the entity registration information, we can maintain in the system with the concept called as legal entity. When you say legal entity, it's nothing but entity registration information. So legal information can be managed in the system with the concept called as legal entity. In short, call it as LE. Short name is LE. And transactions. The transactions are very important. Out of all, yes, of course, employee information is required in legal and all to support. Like when they have a plan of doing the business, then only employees legal and the stock, everything is required. The primary out of all these is we have to treat as transactions only. If there are no business transaction, there is no use of organization existence, right? So the day-to-day business transaction, if you want to record in the system in the systematic manner with a more security, that we'll discuss more detail level. Let's go with a very simple point now. To maintain day-to-day business transaction information in the system, we have to create the environment called as operating unit. Call it as OU. Okay, we call it as OU. We have to create the operating unit concept in the system. By using the operating unit concept, that means within the business group you can maintain the employee information. With the concept called as legal entity, you can maintain the registration information. And within the operating unit, means with the concept called as operating unit, I mean to say within the operating unit only you can record the business transaction. And to manage with the company stock or item goods information, we can create in the system. It's a relevant warehouse. The warehouse only, in other words, we can call as inventory. But here we have to create as a inventory organization. We call as IO short. So these are the different classifications we have to. Okay, when you look at any company data, this is how primarily you have to classify when you are going to bring that information to our instance, our system. So instead of bringing them directly, we'll create the environments in this way, and that's how we'll be bringing the data into the system. BZ to maintain the employee information, LE to maintain the registration information, operating unit to maintain the day-to-day business transaction, inventory organization to maintain the stock. Okay, I'll take the same information here. And here when you look at this point, definitely there will be some employee related transaction. The simple example, salaries. And when we say legal entity, in the legal entity level also there should be some legal reporting. Government organization has to report to government. There will be some transaction. When I talk about operating unit, this is the actual place where business takes place, right? The day-to-day business transaction need to be recorded here. And inventory organization, inventory related, stock related transaction takes place within the inventory organization. When you're selling or buying, definitely the information should comes to inventory, the inventory department. Inventory organization should record all the information in the system. So wherever it can be employee related transaction or legal or operating unit or inventory organization related information, you have to record the transaction the systematic way. Nothing but you have to include on which date you are recording the transaction and what is the description, details of the transaction, and in which currency you are recording, Is all the information you have to include. Along with this, already we discussed, if you want to record the transaction, the subledger applications, along with the three C's, calendar, currency, chart of accounts, we need one more C called as accounting method. That's what we discussed. By grouping these calendar, currency, chart of account, and accounting method, we discussed we can create the primary ledger the same we did in the system also. So that also I'm including part of along with all these definitions, all these environments. Okay, so it can be BZ or LE or OU or inventory. It can be anything. If you want to record the business transaction, definitely we require primary ledger. Without primary ledger, you cannot record any business transaction in the system. So primary ledger, PL. Okay, that's all. So with the help of primary ledger, you can record the transactions in any level. It can be BZ level or LE level, operating unit or inventory organization level. So these points we have to understand before we get into the system. So, and one more point here is, this is a hierarchy Oracle is giving. That's how they designed. If you look at chart of accounts structure, okay, we'll have a organization name. Under that we'll have a segments. Under segments we'll have a value sets. For each segment we will assign value set, right? By following that value set we'll maintain the values. Or else if you want to take in very simple way, we'll have a structure name, organization structure name. Under that segments, under segment values will have. So that is a hierarchy. There we are following hierarchy. That is the reason we are calling a structure, chart of account structure or accounting key flexible structure, anything. The same way here, when you look at these classifications also need to be maintained in the system by following certain hierarchy only. On top level we should have business group. Under business group we have to maintain primary ledger. Under primary ledger we have to maintain legal entity. Under legal entity we should maintain operating net. Under operating net only we should have inventory organization. This is a hierarchy which designed and delivered by Oracle. Okay, if you see here, I just given simple diagram here, flow diagram. This is how it looks like. Okay, so this is how you can see. On top level we'll have a business group. Under business group we'll have a primary ledger. Under primary ledger we'll have a legal entity. Under legal entity operating net OU. Under operating net we'll have a inventory organization. That means every inventory, whatever the warehouse we have, that should support your business transaction. Those can be sales or purchases. Operating unit means where you do the real business. Okay, the actual business transaction will be recorded with the concept called as operating unit. We'll refer what exactly meaning of operating unit, how you can just relate with the actual business, everything we'll discuss. So wherever this operating unit means the business transaction where you record. When you're recording the business transaction, definitely to support that business transaction there should be warehouse management. That only we are calling as inventory. When you are doing the business, definitely you should follow certain registration. By following certain registration only you will be running the business, you will be recording the business transaction. That is the reason always this operating will be under legal entity. And to record the business transactions in any level we'll have a primary ledger, and here we have a business group on top level where we'll maintain the employee information. This is a hierarchy we have to follow. This hierarchy in our Oracle application we call as multi-org structure. Make a note. I hope everybody is taking all these points. This we call as multi-org structure. Multi-org. Simply call it as multi-org. Multi-org stands for multiple organizations. But generally we don't call it as multiple organization. Always we call it as this short name. Okay, this we call as multi-org. Okay, multi-org. So why we are calling multi-org? These all are organization related elements, organization related units. This all talks about one company only. Okay, one company only. If you are running, even if you are running the business in only one place, this is how you have to structure your business information in the system. Okay, this is how you have to structure your business information in the system. So that's how you can manage entire information with a more security and segregated manner. We'll talk on that, but just simple point. So this is how just you have to create the business group under BZ, primary ledger under primary ledger, LE under LE, OU under OU, inventory organization. This we call as this hierarchy. Just these are all information related to one company only. Okay, so but represented as a different organization units. This is one unit related to one organization. This is another unit, other unit, other unit. All these are the different units you can treat. Okay, when you look at this, all the information, because all will refer same organization, but different classification of data we are maintaining. Okay, so why we are calling as multi-org, multiple organizations. Within this, you can run the business, and we'll talk on that. Just as of now, try to understand this we call as multi-org, or you can call as multi-org structure also. Okay, so what is a multi-org structure in Oracle application means you can talk about this. When you talk about multi-org structure, the entire company information can be classified and maintained with the different organization units. Okay, when you look at the structure, and top level will have a business group where we can maintain employee information, and that business group will have a primary ledger to record the business transactions throughout any unit of organization. And within the under primary ledger will have a legal entities, nothing but company registration information. Under legal entity we will have a operating units. Here we can record the day-to-day business transactions, and within the operating unit we'll have a inventory organizations. So this is what we have to understand. Now just this is a point to understand very high level how that organization hierarchy looks like. Okay, how the multi-org structure looks like in our Oracle application. What is the naming convention, what is the meaning of each and every classification. This is what we are trying to understand. Now let's look into these points. Okay, let's try to understand. So on what base we have to decide. Say you are doing the implementation for XYZ company. Now the big question is, what base we have to create the business group, how many business groups the client required, how many primary ledgers they require, how many legal entities, how many operating units, how many inventory organizations. The question is how many and why. This is a very important point to understand this concept. So let's talk about business group. It's a very simple point. So when you talk about business group generally will create country specific. If you are going to do if your client is doing the business in the multiple countries, you have to create the multiple business groups. Say client is running the business in 10 countries. In that case, you'll create 10 business groups. Business group purpose is to maintain the employee information. So when you are maintaining the employee, definitely the payroll comes into the picture. Say you have a business in India and US. Okay, India and US. For India, we have a separate payroll, and US we have a different payroll. So if you are going to club and maintain India and US employees information in one environment, that would be, you cannot easily do the relevant country specific processes. That is the reason the best practice we generally see in this implementation is each country will go with the separate business group. So just here the element you have to understand country. Okay, on what base you will decide how many business groups required. Country base. So how many countries you are going to do the implementation for the client, those many business groups you have to create. Okay, anyway, these business groups, how many really required and all should be decided by HRMS consultants, because how they want to manage the HR and payroll related information, based on that they'll take decision. But anyway, just we should understand the point on what base. So in some projects you can see, even they're running the business in the multiple companies, they'll have one business group. Within that business group they'll manage the solution country specific, but general practice you see everywhere, each country one business group is required. If somebody is going to ask you, how can you decide how many business groups are required? It's a very simple. How many countries client is doing the business? Generally, for each country, will go with a separate business group, so that in the separate business group, you can maintain the specific country data. If client is doing the business in two countries, say India and US, now we'll create the two business groups, say India business group and US business group. In India business group, will maintain the India employees, and US business group US employees. That's how we'll manage the business group information in the system. Okay, how many business groups we have to create? That depends on how many countries we are doing the implementation. On what base we do, what base we decide the business group country. Okay, so that's what we have to understand. Why don't we maintain one business group for multiple countries? Here challenge is currency. Okay, so country to country currency is different. Okay, when you are going to maintain the business group, there you have to specify the currency. The business group will support which currency within that business group. What are the information you are going to maintain, that will refer which currency. Again, the business group is specific to which country. The country also you have to specify. So in the one business group you cannot specify this is for multiple countries and multiple currencies. Again, other point is the payroll system will be totally different country to country. That is the reason, that is the requirement why we have to maintain the separate business group for each and every country. And the second point is primary ledger. The primary ledger, basically you can call it as transaction entity. Okay, we can call it as transaction entity, where you can record the accounting information. Okay, where you can record the accounting information. Now the point is, how many primary ledgers required? How many primary ledgers required? So to answer this question, we have some other points also we have to understand, that I'll give you later. But for now, simple point is, for each country minimum one primary ledger. I'll say minimum one primary ledger for each country. Okay, if client is doing business in 100 countries, for each country minimum one primary ledger is required. We can have more than one primary ledger in one country. For if client is doing the business in India, yes, you can have more than one. There are specific reasons that, anyway, today's session itself will be discussing those points. But just to give you the simple information, on what base we decide primary ledger? Primarily country. For each country minimum we should have one primary ledger. Okay, how many we require, in what scenarios will be using more than one, that anyway we'll be discussing today itself. This is a simple point, try to understand. Okay, why can't we go with the one primary ledger for multiple countries? Like when we are creating the primary ledger, we have to select the currency and we have to select the accounting method. Take simple example, client is running the business in India and US. I want to maintain one primary ledger for India and US. Impossible. When we are creating the primary ledger, for India we need INR, for US we need USD. Okay, think these two country currencies are same, just as an example, but financial years are totally different, right? For India, financial year is physical year, and US financial year is calendar year. So that is the reason. So very primarily currency. Of course, in few countries, okay, few countries currency accounting method may be, what I can say, the financial year may be same, but still think currency is going to be different. When you are doing the implementation for multiple countries, in each country currency will be totally different. That is the reason, for each country we have to go with a separate primary ledger. The reason of currency is different from country to country. So for each country minimum one primary ledger required. What will become the reason to go with a more than one primary ledger within the country also will be discussing today. And when you talk about legal entity, on what base? So how many entities we have? Okay, how many entities we have? Okay, how many companies we have? Like for each company you may have separate registration, or else simply you can say how many registrations you have. Simple point you can take as a registration. Generally for each entity you may have separate registration. Okay, let me take as registration. So how many registrations we have, accordingly we'll create those many legal entries in the system. That's all. Say you are running the business in India, and you are running the business in India. Say you are doing only one nature of business. Okay, specific nature of business. You are not into different vertical of businesses. In that case, in one country, for one vertical of business, you can go with a one registration. Or else if you are running the business in one country in India, and if you are doing the different vertical of businesses, you are into different businesses. Say you are into textiles, you are into automobiles, you are into some software consulting or software development, you are into BPO. So I think these are the different entities. These 4 5 are different entities which will be having the different functions. Okay, and even if you are running the business in one country with a different vertical of businesses, still you can have one registration. And if you are interested to go with a separate registration, in that case for each vertical of business you can go with a separate registration. For multiple businesses within the country, you may have one or multiple. This is a point you have to understand. Totally legal entity, how many legal entities we have to create, that totally decided based on the how many registrations we have for the company. Okay, if client is running the business in 10 countries, minimum 10 will be there. Minimum for each country, definitely every client should have a one registration. More than one, that depends. Okay, so this is also here also you have to understand how many registrations we have, those many legal entities we have to create. And other point is, for each country minimum one registration, one legal entity should be there. Without a legal entity you cannot manage any business information in the system or in the real world. And coming to operating unit, here it got lot of scope on what base we can create the operating unit. But to simplify your understanding here, I'm going to take simple example. Say, so we are running the business in India and we got 10 branches. I may create 10 operating units, that's all. The branch I can take a separate operating unit. Say I'm running the business in India, I have business in Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, and Kolkata, and so other cities. So my requirement is definitely how much business I am doing in each and every city where I am treating those as a branches. Okay, so how much business I am doing, that I want to track. Again, I want to capture, I want to track how much expense we are incurring, how much revenue we are generating. Ultimately, end of the day, how much profit we are getting. This and everything I want to get the information, and that's how I want to control the whatever the business the specific branch is doing. And in the system point of view, I want to maintain the security for the data. If I'm going to maintain, if say I have a 10 branches, the 10 branches I'll be creating in the system as a 10 operating units. So why I'm going to create as operating unit? For each branch data I want to maintain in the system separately. And for the data I want to maintain the security. That means one branch data should not be accessed by other branch, but all the data I'll be maintaining in the one system. But operating unit concept, I can segregate and I can maintain the business information in the one system separately. Okay, I can take branch as a separate operating unit, that depending on the business. So the entity, okay, you are doing the 4 different type of businesses. In that case, for each business you may have separate operating unit. Okay, you may want to maintain the separate operating unit where you want to track business wise transaction. Business wise, you want to have a control and you want to get to know the expense or revenue, how much you are getting. And finally you want to know the profitability, how much you are going to make out. So for that reason you can go just with the different concepts. Anyway, with this point we just will be discussing once again. For now, this is a point to understand. So how you can decide how many operators are there? Normally, generally in the business you see. So if I ask the question, okay, you are doing the implementation for one client, how you are going to decide how many operating units are client required? Generally, how many branches they have, those many operating units we create. Why you are creating separate operating for each and every branch? Definitely, every company will look at the. Uh, I mean, they'll have expectation of knowing the maintaining that branch data separately and more secured way, and as well as they want to maintain the transaction separately, where they'll get a uh, option as generating the reports branch wise, so that they can take the decisions based on that how much profitability they are going to get from that branch. And for other decision making purpose also, that information will be more useful. So that is a point we have to understand. If not branch, you may go with entity wise also. If you are running the different businesses, for each business you can have separate operating unit. Again, the same one business, if you are going to do in the multiple locations as a different branches for the same business, okay, you can create multiple operating units location based. Okay, that's how you can manage. There are different possibilities. Okay, once we get into the system, I'll be giving some additional points also. That's how you can understand. And you talk about inventory organization, it's very simple. How many warehouses you have, those many inventory organizations you have to create. Just it's a simple point. How many inventories you have? Okay, how many inventory how many warehouses or inventories you have, those many inventory organizations you have to create in the system. This is how this base will be creating the business group, primary ledger, legal entity, operating net, and inventory organization. So what base we create in business group? Based on countries, country specific. BZ is generally country specific. What information we can maintain within the BZ? Employee information. When we talk about primary ledger, so how many primary ledgers we have to create for one client? That depends in how many countries client has operations. For each country, minimum we have to maintain the one primary ledger. We cannot create one primary ledger which can be used for more than one country. Reason, within the primary ledger, okay, we'll have an element called as currency that makes big difference to maintain the primary ledger separately for country to country. But within one country, we can maintain more than one primary ledger. Anyway, that we'll be discussing. And the other point is legal entity. How many legal entities we have to create for one client? It's a very simple point. How many registrations they have? Based on that. On what base they are going to have those many registrations? That's up to the company. When they have business in, when they have business in one country, they can have one registration or multiple registration. That up to client how they want to manage. When we are doing the implementation, what we have to understand is how many registration the company got, those many legal entities we have to create in the system. When we talk about operating net, what is the purpose of operating it? Just to segregate and maintain the data in a very secured manner, which will gives the good information of reporting and all. For that reason, we'll have an operating unit concept. Normally, we'll create the operating for each branch or entity. That depends on how the company has to maintain their data and they want to look at the security aspects. Based on that, we'll create the operating net. And what are the warehouses they have, our inventories, they have those many inventories we have to create. Client say client has a 10 warehouses, the 10 inventory organizations we have to create in the system. Okay, so this is the point we have to understand. If client has a 10 warehouses, we'll be creating the 10 inventory organization in the system. We'll be creating one additional also, that system purpose that we'll discuss later. Now we need to understand that point. So these are the simple points to understand. If you have any questions, you please ask me. If no questions, I'll move to the next point to talk on this primary ledger. How many primary ledgers really required when you are doing the business for any client? Any questions on this, please?
Yeah, Lakshman, I have a quick
Lakshman,
question.
Who's speaking? Yeah, Pankaj, please.
Yeah, Nagraj, good mention. Yeah, thank you. First question. For instance, in one of the implementation, if the client don't want to use Oracle, to say HRMS, they want to use some legacy system for managing their employees. In that case, what kind of the PG we can have? For example, there are multiple countries with this implementation, but they want to use PeopleSoft as an application for mentoring their employees and manage their payroll. So in that case, how you can address the number of PGs? That's the first question.
Okay, fine. Simple point. Okay, your question is client is not going to use Oracle HRMS application to manage their employee information. So say like client is going to use Oracle financials from Oracle EBS, means Oracle applications. Financials client is going to use, and HRMS solution they are going to have from other application, which we call as generally third party application. In that case, okay, in that case you don't need to worry about these BGs and all. Just to run the process in the system, to complete the configuration, at least you have to create one dummy business group in the system that will help you to run through the process. All the information, required information, what are the information should flow from HRMS to our finance related area, that will flow. Rest of information, all the reporting purpose, all the data goes to GL. So in that case, they have to manage Similar to business groups, in PeopleSoft will have a separate concepts. Okay, when you talk about PeopleSoft, will have a LDGs, what we call legislative data groups. Okay, similar to, not exactly similar to business groups, we have a legislative data group concept in the PeopleSoft application. So they will decide how many legislative data groups they have to maintain when they are going to maintain the employee information, the PeopleSoft. In Oracle point of view, we no need to come up with the solution. Think we are not implementing HRMS, human resource solution, within the Oracle application. That is the reason here you no need to give any solution. So the solution will be there. Just required data will flow into our Oracle application for reporting purpose. That's all. You don't need to focus on that. But to run the show, to run our financial system process, okay, you can have a just dummy business group that which will allow you to complete your finance related setups. That's it. Or else you may just take the reference of PeopleSoft business group. Those same you can maintain here, which will sync and will support for the process. Primary, you don't need to do any solution in Oracle application when we are using other system. Everything will be managed there only. Just data will flow into our application, whatever the data we require in this business process. That's how it works. Okay. If you are going to use HRMS application also in our Oracle, in that case it's required. But by default, this is the structure which you have to understand as a multi-org structure. Okay, primarily we are not going to decide how many business groups are required. Generally, HRMS people will do it. The rest will take care of. But since finance is very core and primary out of all the applications, we should understand. That is the reason I'm trying to give you these points. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one more question. Uh, when you are referring to registration is nothing but the tax registration number you are referring to, right?
Yeah. Because the payroll process, the taxation will be totally different to country. And when you are creating the business group, you have to specify the business group for which country you have to address, as well as within that country which currency, okay, the transaction should relate to. You have to specify. That is the reason you have to make the difference by creating the separate business groups for each country. And you have please.
Sorry to interrupt you here. Is there any thumb rule? There should be like one-to-one relationship between PL and EL. There's be like one PL and multiple EL can assigned to one PL, or is there any way like one LE can be assigned to multiple PL?
No, I am not coming to that. Okay, you are switching to next point. Okay, fine, good. So done. When you talk about primary ledger and legal entity, simple point. Under one primary ledger, you can have n number of legal entity. Okay, under one primary ledger, you can have n number of legal entity, but one legal entity can be assigned to one primary ledger. One legal entity can be assigned to one primary ledger. Multiple legal entities can be assigned to one primary ledger. Hope it is clear. Okay. You can have n number of primary ledgers and n number of legal entities. In other words, I can say under one primary ledger, you can have n number of legal entities also. Okay. One legal entity you can assign to only one primary ledger. Okay, only one primary. Think you are not going to have, okay, you are not going to, you are not going to have a one legal entity to map with the two different primary ledgers. One legal entity can be assigned to one primary ledger, but for one primary ledger you can assign multiple legal entities. If not clear, please.
Yeah, thank you. It's clear now.
Yep. Any other questions? Anyway, these all will create in the system and we'll keep working on these only. Then still, if you get any doubts or any clarification, definitely we'll keep discussing on this. But just before getting into this concept as a system process, I want to give you the understanding what we have, why we have, and what base we decide. So any other questions?
Lakshman,
Yeah.
when we are maintaining employee information in third-party applications like other than Oracle applications,
Okay.
so the role as a functional consultant, like the data is flowing into our systems, financial systems, is the job done by our financial consultant or again still the Oracle HRMS
Okay.
consultant's job here?
Yeah, good question. Fine, I'll answer this. So if you want to bring other system data into our application, you want to bring into which application, that's very important. Take simple example, you want to bring that third party application data into Oracle General Ledger or Oracle Payables, depending on which data you want to bring. In that case, the primary task, the primary work will be done by technical people, because to interface we have to create the, to move the data from other application to third party to Oracle application, the technical resource, technical consultants need to develop some interfaces. They have to do programming. Through that programming only they will be moving the data from that application to this application. Here, since the data is related to, say if you take other HRMS related information, third party application, definitely HRMS functional consultant should involve in that job. And since we are going to target the GL application to move the data, as a functional consultant we have to involve. What we'll be doing, just simple point, mapping will be doing from that system which data we have to bring into which application, again which column data into which column of our Oracle application. Generally that we call as field mapping. If any errors comes in this process, how to handle those errors and how to get the reference from that system to this system, that sort of work we'll be doing, that we call as, we will be just working to give the functional specifications. I don't want to discuss on this too much. Okay, I'll be explaining, we'll be discussing about when you do some kind of customizations, when you are going to develop some reports or forms, or when you are working on interfaces, what we'll be doing being a functional consultant. I have a session as a part of real-time classes. At that time I'll be explaining. Okay, so but since you are asking, this is just simple high level information, but I'll explain in detail level how to do that.
Okay, thank you, Lakshman.
Yeah, thanks. Any other questions? Fine. So out of all these, so very important unit is, object is operating net. Okay, so whatever we discussed as a P2P and O2C, that payables related, invoice creation and payments, receivables related, sales invoice and receipts, all will be recorded at operating net level only. Means, so specific branch only will do that sort of activities, right? Specific branch only will do that sort of activities, or specific entity only will do that sort of activities. So that is the reason everything will be recording in that level only. Okay, so done. So when you look at that same information, this is how just you can find as a hierarchy, which we call as multi-org. So if you are going to maintain that information in the system, this is how this hierarchy we have to follow. In the top level, we will have a business group, BZ, and under business group, we'll have a primary ledger. Under primary ledger, we have to maintain legal entity. Under legal entity, operating net. Under operating net, inventory organization. Fine. The inventory organization will support the operating units to have their business transaction, the sales or purchases, which are related to stock. And when we are running the business, we have to follow certain registration, nothing but legal entity. To have all this information, to account all this information, we'll have a primary ledger, which is required for each and every transaction. On top level, we'll have a business group. So within this, we can maintain the employee information. This hierarchy is a very standard hierarchy. It's fixed and freezed by Oracle, and we cannot change. By changing, we cannot call it as multi-org or multi-org structure. Okay, multi-org means multiple organization. What is a multi-org or multi-org structure in Oracle application? This is how just you can present. As per multi-org, will just entire organization information will classify and will maintain with the different organization units. Those are nothing but business group to maintain the employee information, primary ledger to manage the accounting transactions, and legal entity to maintain the registration information of the company, operating unit to record the day-to-day business transactions throughout their entire organization, and inventory organization to maintain the stock related information and to record the inventory related transactions. So this is how just we have to maintain this we call as multi-org structure. Fine. So earlier we are discussing, we discussed the points. Okay, by using the different applications we can maintain the different set of data we discussed. Now we are discussing by using, say, a simple example. Earlier we discussed by using the payables we can record the purchase invoices and payments. By using receivables we can maintain the sales invoice and do receipt information. This is what we discussed in our earlier discussions when we talk about P2P and O2 cycle. Now we are discussing something different. Okay, now we are discussing something different. That is, we are discussing by using operating unit concept we can maintain the all the business transactions. We are discussing how that is, we'll see. See, the total organization information, the company information can be classified and maintained with these units, with these classifications, but what are the information we are going to maintain, that has to be managed by particular application only. So we are discussing by using the business group concept. We can maintain the employee information. To maintain the employee information, of course, with the concept called as business group, you can maintain the employee information. Okay, primarily the employee information need to be maintained by HRMS application. Simple point is HRMS, Human Resource Management System. That means, okay, we create and maintain the employee information HRMS only. That HRMS related information can be managed with the solution called as business group. That means this HRMS application will be working at business group level. Okay, we'll have a concept called as business group. Okay, within the business group, think with this concept, the HRMS application will be mapped. Okay, linked. So when you are working on HRMS application to manage the employees, you should specify, if you are creating an employee, you have to specify the employees belongs to which business group. When you say business group, that is country specific. That's how we have to understand. So whatever we discuss, all will be working with the help of particular so-and-so application support. If I say we'll maintain the employee information by using the business group, yes, that's true. We can maintain the employee information with the concept called business group with the help of HRMS application. With the help of HRMS application. Here, when you talk about primary ledger, okay, when you talk about primary ledger, so we can maintain the primary ledger. Okay, where we create primary ledger already we discussed in GL. That means we can record the business transaction by using the primary ledger with the support of general ledger application. That means GL will be mapped at this primary ledger. I think one point is pending to understand. So here, minimum one primary ledger is required for one country. When we may require more than one primary ledger within one country. Let's take simple example. Say the company is doing the multiple different vertical of business in one country. Take example, Tata Group. Within the Tata Group, we have a different vertical of businesses. Say TCS and Tata Telecommunications. Okay, and we have many Tata Steel, Tata Motors, many we have, but all not required. Take simple example. So Tata Group has two vertical of businesses, TCS, Tata Consulting Services, and Tata Telecommunications. So in this case, two businesses they are doing in same India. In that case, what currency these two businesses has to use? INR. Okay, here I'll take simple example. Currency, I'll say this. So to create the primary ledger, we need currency, calendar, chart of accounts, say accounting method, and COA. Okay, if you take this simple example, we have a company called as Tata Group. So they have two different businesses, TCS and Tata Telecommunications. They're operating the business in one country. In this case, since they're operating the two business in India, definitely they have to take as their primary, functional currency as INR. Here TCS we need INR. For Tata Telecommunications we need INR. Calendar, what they require? Here they need physical year calendar, and here also physical, which starts in April, ends with a March. The accounting method, when we are creating, just we selected as standard. I am taking the same here. What is the meaning of that? Anyway, we'll be discussing standard accrual. And since country is one, the accounting rules, accounting policies also will remain same. And coming to chart of accounts, okay, say a simple example. The TCS, and they are recording the business transaction, they need 6 segments. TCS need 6 segments. Okay, and Tata Telecommunications, they need 8 segments. Tata Telecommunications need 8 segments. So in that case, when you say here 6 and 8, they can look into that. What are the common segments these two companies are required? Or else, let me take very simple example. I'll explain. You say this TCS need 3 segments and Tata Telecommunications need 4 segments. We will see what are those. For TCS, okay, for TCS, say they need segments called as to record the transaction: company, department, account. Okay, and when you talk about this Tata Telecommunications, okay, say they need 4 segments. They need company, department, account, and say product. TCS need 3 segments, Tata Telecommunications need 4 segments. Now everything same, but segment requirement is totally different. TCS need 3 and Tata Telecommunication Services need 4. In that case, what we can do is we can create the common chart of accounts. Now we can create the chart of accounts. Anyway, these two companies need company, okay, and department same, account same, additional 4. Now if I create this chart of account with the 4 segments, this can be used by TCS and Tata Telecommunication Services. When TCS is going to record the transactions with the chart of accounts, they'll enter the segment values for company, department, account. For product, they'll take zeros, no values applicable, not applicable. When this company is going to record the transactions, they may just select segment values for 4. I can say I can create the common chart of accounts. I can create the common chart of accounts, or else take in this way. This need 4, this company need 4 segments, 4 they require. In that case, I can create the common chart of accounts like, I'll give the chart of accounts name as Tata chart of accounts. I'll give common segments: company, yes, both require, and department, 2 companies require, account, 2 companies required, and TCS require project, and here telecommunication require product. Now this is how I'll create the chart of accounts. This chart of accounts I'll be taking as a part of primary ledger. I'll create one primary ledger. Then I'll take INR, calendar as physical year, standard accrual as accounting method. I'll use this chart of accounts. So now, okay, these two companies can use the same primary ledger. But if you see the business requirement, this TCS need few more segments. Say LOB they need, line of business, okay, and they need something, some process line, and this telecommunications, and they need something like location, and they want to capture some brand, Just I'm taking some random, and so on. Like in this way, every company has their own requirement to have a different chart of account segments based on their business process. Now, taking all these into one chart of accounts as a common chart of account will become big challenge. Now, if I'm going to take these two, even if I take distinct, the chart of account segments number maybe goes up to 10 or 10 plus. Okay, using 10 plus segments in the chart of accounts is a very bad practice. Okay, that is the reason to simplify the process, I may go with the different primary ledgers for two different companies. The reason is the two companies has requirement of different chart of accounts. If chart of account two companies can use the same chart of accounts, we'll go with a one primary ledger for one country. Even these two companies are we are running in the one country which are falls under same group, but because these two companies has different chart of accounts requirement, in that case we'll go with the different primary ledger within the one country. In one country also we may go with a more than one primary ledger. What would be the primary reason to go with the multiple primary ledgers within the country? Chart of accounts. Okay, when you are running the business in one country with a different vertical of businesses, across those verticals, if you have a requirement of maintaining the different chart of accounts, that makes the difference of maintaining the separate primary ledger. This is the point we have to understand. But by default, okay, minimum one primary ledger required. You may require more than one if you come across this kind of different scenario where each company has to go with their own required segments. Okay, any question on this, please? So this is the point you have to understand. Okay, because of chart of accounts, we may go with the different primary ledgers within the country. Any questions on this, please? Some companies, even if they're running the business in the multiple countries, they will have a global chart of accounts. If say the client is running the business in 10 countries, still they'll use only one chart of account, but still they have to create separate primary ledgers. The reason, currencies are totally different, and definitely calendars also can be different. Okay, so because of these reasons they'll go with the separate primary ledgers. You can see some companies are using global chart of accounts. What are the chart of account is used by India, and the same will be used by other country, because the required information they'll manage and they'll be finalizing the chart of accounts which will support the global business requirements across the countries. Any questions on this, please? Okay, fine. Seems to no questions. Fine. The other point.
Sorry, Lakshman. So in this scenario, as we see that we are not able to come to one chart of account, and it is a structure. So is it okay to have multiple chart of account even though other three C's are same?
Yeah. See, when you have multiple chart of accounts, if you go with a multiple chart of accounts, definitely you are going with a different primary ledgers. If you have data in one ledger, one primary ledger, that easily you can use it for reporting purpose. Okay, if you are going to have data in the different primary ledgers, definitely when you want to look after these two or three ledgers, just you have to bring all the data into one place and you have to prepare the reports. That will become some other challenge. If you have data, all the data in one country, specific data in one ledger, that gives a lot of flexibility when you are working on the data. So always it's a recommended solution is go with one primary ledger for one country. That's always best practice. You can see when you are working, most of the clients also will use one primary ledger, one country, until unless they have some critical requirement where they should go with a separate primary ledgers. When they go with a separate primary ledger, there are some challenges in terms of data, in terms of reporting. I mean data reporting. The best practice is go with the one primary ledger for one country. And if you see the very big companies, definitely, since they'll be doing large volume of the transaction, totally their business process is different, and they have a separate registration, they're running separately everything. In that case, they may go with a separate primary ledger. Okay, so that practice also you can say, it's a company is very big and their operations are very large. In that case, they'll go with that. Even there are some challenges, okay, and they'll go with a separate process. Any question here?
Yeah, Lakshman, I have one question.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, Lakshman, when I'm creating the combinations, I am getting one error here. Your retained earnings account must be a balance sheet account. Like that error I am getting. And one more thing, if I tried with a different combination, it will work out. At some point of combination, it will not work out. May the reason, please?
See, you just try to select ownership account type as ownership, that should work. Still, if it is not accepting, think that is a system issue. Okay, just to move to the next step, you can use any one of the account and you can proceed. There won't be an issue. Okay. I don't know who is asking this question. Is it clear? So you should use account type when you are creating the account, return earnings account. The type you have to select. We have expense, revenue, asset, liability, ownership. You should select account type as ownership. Generally, if you take ownership, it should accept. Even if you selected, it is not accepting, you don't need to worry about it. That is some system related bug which you have to treat. Generally, when we are working, we'll just contact Oracle and they'll be helping. Now, just you are going to test, you don't need to worry about it. You can select any one of the account over there to complete that setup. Is it clear?
Lakshman.
Yeah.
Yeah, clear.
Yep. Fine. Any other questions?
Lakshman, yeah. When we are working on a global chart of accounts, you said.
Okay.
So when we are maintaining the global chart of accounts, maybe somehow suppose if the like country 1 and country 2, if they are doing the transactions, some of the fields might be, or some of the segments might be dummy, or you can call it as 00. So how can we know when we are recording the transactions? For the particular segment, we need to maintain 00 or a dummy value.
User should know when the user is entering what purpose they are entering, which is included, which is not included. Definitely they'll be knowing, right? So that's how. Just say, for example, I am part of some purchasing department. Say there is one segment called as project. When I'm recording the transaction, definitely I should know this purchase is against the project or not. This purchase is related to so and so, which line of business. I should know. The user who is working on the system, on the process, they should aware. Otherwise, what exactly anyone can enter, what they are doing, what they know, that they have to capture in the system with the help of by using the chart of account. That's what. Okay, there are many implications as you raise the point. In that case, they may not go with the global, but there is more similarity where they can use the segments, then only they'll go with the global chart of accounts. But most of the companies are interested to go with the global chart of accounts. That will become just a best thing where they can put all the data in one place and they can set a controls. They can set a security, which data can be used by whom, which data cannot be used by whom. The restrictions also they can set it up. Say there is some user who is working. If you don't want to allow that user to select any one of the value related to so and so segment, you can set a rule. That will be discussing in GL side. When we are working on general ledger application, we have a concept called as security rules and cross validation rules, some conditional base. All rules you can set up. That's how it works in the real time. But how user can know means user should know. Otherwise, user should not enter the transaction. Okay. So which user has to select? Depending on what real business transaction they did, accordingly they have to select. That should be known by user by referring which document they are entering the transaction in the system. Okay, within the system cannot understand when somebody is entering. This is how it should come and all. That has to be that should come from user experience. Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, so basically, system is not going to throw any error. Only the user has to know.
Exactly. If you can set the system to throw some error also. But every situation you cannot intimate to system to throw error, right? Primarily, user should know where user may commit with some mistakes and all that sort of things. You can set as error. Say you may set if user is recording the transaction for company 1. The department 10 is not valid. You can set that is a business rule. By mistake, user may try to enter because for company 1, department 10 is not existed. There you can set a rule. That's how system will throw a message. Say the user is not going to work for department, say company 2. User is working only for company 1. The user is not at all going to work for company 2, but you have a company 1, 2, 3, many other companies. So user doesn't require access to company 2. Like in that case, you can set a restriction in the system. This user can view only company 1. Other companies, even we have in the chart of account, users should not be able to see or use. These rules we can set up.
Yeah, got it. Maybe the security rules, which I
Correct.
understood.
Correct. Yeah, the security and the cross validation rules we can set it up. Okay, we'll discuss anyway when you're working. Fine. Any other questions? Fine. So now the other points to discuss here, simple. See here. So when you look at this multi-org structure, business group level will be mapping the HRMS application, and primary ledger level will be mapping application called as GL, and will be mapping FA application. So why and how just we'll see when you are working in system, but here if you try to understand more and more, you cannot. Okay, that should come with some experience only. When you are working on the system, you can understand. For now, take these points and remember, whenever you reach stage, that's what meaning of these points you can understand. Okay, somebody was asking in the previous discussion, today, so where we can maintain the assets. Okay, as per multi-year structure, so assets will be mapped at primary ledger level only. You'll be maintaining the assets as a part of your ledger. That's how the solution we have. Okay, those are not related to particular branch. Even those are belongs to particular branch, the system point of view that need to be managed at ledger level only, primary ledger. And I talk about legal entity. The legal entity level, we can have a cash management application. And when we talk about operating unit, here we can have our primary modules AP, ER, and PO, OM. There are many other application, project costing, billing, and many, but those are not related to us. But what very relevant to us, let's talk on that. And when you talk about inventory, primarily say inventory application can be mapped with the inventory organization. These are the applications. These are the organization or enterprise elements, anything, organization units or enterprise elements, anything you can call. So as per multi-org, which module is mapped at what level? Application only we can call as module, already we discussed. What level we can map? HRMS can be mapped at business group level. That means, as we discussed, in the business group we can maintain the employee information. Okay, the point here is, the actual point is, we can maintain the employee information by in business group with the help of HRMS application. That means primarily employee information you have to maintain it within the HRMS application only. With the help of HRMS, you can manage that information as a business group. And primary ledger, this general ledger application and fixed assets application can be mapped at this primary ledger level. And when you talk about legal entity, so you'll see in the system why cash management we are referring at legal entity level. So the bank accounts and all the maintenance will be done by legal entity. That is the reason when you say cash management, primarily it's for bank accounts and bank statement reconciliation. That's what. But as of now, here don't try to get more meaning. Impossible. Here we cannot understand each and everything why it is mapped. For now, just I'm giving the information. Once we start working on the system, these you can understand the reality. You can see there and will be working. That's how you will understand. For now, just keep this information with you and go through it and remember. Then whenever we are working, definitely that will be connected. And operating it, this is the actual place where real business transaction takes place. That level, the primary applications are mapped: APR, POOM, many other applications. Inventory organization level will be mapping the inventory application. So already we discussed, as per P2P and O2 cycle, from all the applications will transfer the data to general ledger. General ledger is the place where we'll create the business transaction. Okay, if you notice, even if you are sending the data from all the applications to general ledger application, remember when data is coming from all subledgers, means AP, AR, CM, all the applications of general ledger, the data which is coming to GL, there you can see the data is belongs to each application. But just now we are discussing, whenever you are recording the transaction in AP or AR, PO or OM, any application, what we have to do is, if you are going to record the purchase invoices within the AP, you should specify that purchase invoices belongs to which branch. Simple example, the branch we are representing in the system as the operating unit. That means every purchase order, purchase invoice will be recording against particular operating unit. Every payment will be processing against the particular operating unit. In AR, every sales invoice or receipt will be recording against operating unit. Means all the transaction will be specific to operating unit. The AP, AR, PO, OM related, all the transactions definitely should related to particular operating unit with a specific application. And if you are going to generate any reports, okay, we discussed where we can create the financial reports as per application GL. But as per multi-org structure, what level you can generate the financial reports means we should say operating unit, because that level only transactions can be recorded. Just for reporting will move all the transaction to GL. Place is GL to generate the reports, but the actual source of the transaction is operating unit only. We'll record all the transactions at operating unit level with the help of different applications. Even the data will flow to GL. Okay, even if you are preparing the reports in the GL as a place, those always will refer the transactions belongs to which operating unit as well as which transaction. That is the reason with that point we can always say, as per multi-org we can create the transactions at operating unit level. Okay, the financial reports, you could say, the as per multi-org the financial reports can be generated at operating unit level. This is the point we have to understand. So tomorrow when we are, these are all we have to talk to the client. We have to tell them, okay, we are going to maintain your employee information, okay, with the concept called as business group, where business group can be supported by HRMS application. And we'll have a primary ledger, which is a transaction entity or say accounting entity. So to support this primary ledger, we have two applications, GL and FA. This GL and FA application will be mapped as per multi-org primary ledger level. That's how it works. And the legal entity, your registration information, that level will have a cash management application, and APR, PO, OM, all the application will be mapped at operating unit level, and inventory will be mapped at inventory organization level. Maybe you need some time to understand these points detail level, because there and there you cannot understand just, but this is a time where I have to give you this information so that you will start thinking about it. You may not think on this, but once we get into the system you can understand. So these are the points we have to understand. Okay, so this is a multi-org structure. So if you say, for example, you have two branches, you are running the business in India, in that case your multi-org structure would be, you'll have one business group and one primary ledger, one legal entity, and you'll be having multiple operating units. What I'll do is, for now you try to understand this operating unit. When you have a multiple primary ledgers and multiple legal entities and multiple operating units, multiple inventory organization, how your multi-org structure looks like, I'll keep some flow diagrams ready by tomorrow. In the tomorrow session I'll be showing, if you have two operating units, how your multi-org looks like. If you have a two primary ledgers and two legal entities or more than two, whatever, I'll take simple cases. I'll just demonstrate how those looks like so that you can get more information on that. So in tomorrow's session I'll explain what is the advantage of multi-org. Now just I am introducing what is a multi-org as per our Oracle application. What is the advantage of multi-org, how the client can take benefit out of this multi-org if they are going to maintain their organization information with these classifications and by mapping in these levels. Those points I'll explain you in the tomorrow session. Okay, for today just you take as just understanding what is the meaning of BZ, PL, LE, OU and inventory organization. Okay, and here in which scenario we need multiple primary ledgers within the country. Only the difference is if you are going to have a different chart of accounts, then that is the reason. And how the multi-org structure looks like, hierarchy, this is fixed by Oracle. And what level which modules can be mapped. Now it may not be more meaningful for us why we are mapping and all, but in upcoming sessions you can understand. But this is a time where we have to focus on these points to understand. And what level you can generate the reports as per multi-org means operating it as per modules GL. Okay, so these are the points. In tomorrow session I'll be showing with a few examples. If client has a business in 2 countries, how the multi-org looks like, or in one country in the multiple locations, how it looks like. Those I'll be presenting tomorrow, and I'll talk on overall why multi-org required, how it will be useful. Okay, those points also will be discussing. Okay, so this is what just planned for today. Any questions on this, please? Any questions on this? Because it's all about, yeah, please.
Yeah, actually, I missed out eighth session, and I've been requesting your team. I couldn't get the link. That is the reason I'm not able to connect with today's session. So if you can share me both the sessions together, so that I can be prepared for tomorrow's class.
Okay. Sure. Definitely, I'll do that. Today, just along with this link, I'll be sending previous all links to everyone. Okay, that's how I'm doing.
Previous links and all we got it, but eighth session it was overlapped. Earlier you have sent a mail, but then it is overlapped with the seventh session. Both the sessions are same, but then you have mentioned it as eighth session.
Oh, is it? I'll just look into that issue then.
Yeah, please. If you can share me by tomorrow afternoon, that would be fine, because tomorrow I'm able to connect with your session. Otherwise, it is difficult for me to understand the flow.
Yeah, got it. Today I'll send you. Tonight, okay, tonight I'll be sending. Maybe expect within 2 hours. Maybe now 9.
No issues.
11.
No issues. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks. Okay. Thanks for noticing that issue. We didn't look into that as I given same as a separate session. Okay, I'll just look into that. I'll be giving the correct link for that. Fine. Any other questions?
Lakshman, just a quick one. Do you have a link to connect, instance, Arthur instance?
Hope everybody received that link from our team. We shared with everyone.
Unfortunately, I have not received. If you can resend it.
Who is speaking? Pankaj. Okay.
Pankaj.
Yeah. Okay. Please keep in touch with our team. Definitely, they'll help you on that. Hope everybody received.
Sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Pankaj. Any other questions?
Lakshman, this is Syed. Actually, I already received the link for the instance connection, but that is the old version. We can practice that old version, no?
No. We given the same version. Just I think Friday they shared with everyone. Please check it once again. Still, if you see that you have a older version which you received the very beginning, okay, just please, that's what, as I said, you can speak to our team. Hope you have a contact number, just, or else you can drop a mail to them. They'll respond to that. Okay.
The same connection is there. Within the same connection, newer version is there. Otherwise, you send the other.
I'm not sure they're given with the same connection. I think they might have given with the same. Just try with that. URL will be changed. Once again, try. If you don't see the difference, please keep in touch with them. You can get it.
Okay. Thanks. Okay.
Fine. Any other questions?
Lakshman, Prince here.
Yep.
Yeah, so basically I had some questions from the last session, as we did not have time to cover up the questions that time, right?
Yeah, please.
So, yeah.
One second, Prince. So let me just tell you, see, our session is over. Who wants to leave from this session, you can leave. Now I'll be here to answer any further questions from previous classes or today's session. Now you can take the point as session is over. Okay, that's all. Okay, fine, Prince. You can go ahead.
Yeah, so basically you had defined the profile option, the general ledger name, right?
Please. One point. Don't say define. Define means creation. I assigned.
Okay. Yeah, correct. Assigned. So basically my question was, see, those profile options, they are directly given by Oracle, or you have to define it by yourself?
Those are given by Oracle. Those are seeded, we call. Which were given by Oracle, we call as seeded. We don't need to create.
So, okay. So basically, like just like a hypothetical question, like we have order management, purchasing. So we have a lot of profile options for them, right? So all of them are actually given by Oracle, or
yes, all are given by Oracle. All are given by Oracle.
Okay, so we do not have to define. I mean, that is again user defined. Some other profile options which we want to define, right?
No. You don't need to define. in such some, if you have some critical requirement in that case, to manage that situation, to set a behavior of application, you may create some custom, but standard business applications, standard application, you don't need to create any custom. All given by Oracle.
So,
Whatever the functionality
okay.
Oracle given, to utilize that, the given required profile options.
Okay, so basically, see, the thing is that like a lot of business uses customized solutions, right? So over
See,
there,
listen. I got your point. I got your point.
yes.
If they customize the
Hmm.
solution, if they customize the solution, they can use it. Don't think for everything we have to set the profile option. With the profile option only you can manage everything. Okay, the profile option is the is required to connect something, but not everything. Say I'm using payables, I need some custom solution. I can build the custom solution, I can include as a part of standard solution, which I call as some customization. In that case, it's not mandatory I should go with the profile option. Okay, the technical team will just develop that component, that technical I mean, what are the requirement you have, that they'll be deploying, and that will be available to use through your menu only. You no need to set up any profile option if you have something, some requirement. Any question?
Okay, so yeah, one more question I have apart from that. So we created responsibility as well last time, right? So basically, in the responsibility, there are menus and a data group as well. Those options were there, right?
Correct.
So we took the values from the LOV. So basically, the value which you took from the LOV, that also came directly from Oracle, like it is seeded
Oracle.
from before.
Yeah, seeded from Oracle. In our classes we'll be learning how to create our own also.
So basically, for OM and PO, like those seeded values are already available.
For every application we have a seeded menu and a seeded request book.
Okay, fine. Those two questions were there. That's it.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Lakshman.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Because the initial sessions we cannot touch everything. If you may have a question like why we are assigning the request book. Okay, so I want to show you in the system with some example. That's the reason I just parked that information separately. Anyway, we'll be creating our own and all, you can understand. So few things you may have to wait for some time to understand. So that's the reason I'm not touching those then and there. Any other questions?
Okay, thanks, Lakshman.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions, please? Okay, fine. Seems to no questions. You can see tomorrow at the same time then. Okay. Have a good day and good night. Thank you all.